So we have quorum. Okay, give 1 minute and then we will call this meeting to order. Is Carlton there in person?
No.
Oh.
Coming in online.
Yeah, I see him.
For some reason, I'm doing something wrong with my camera because it doesn't show anything.
No, I know. It looks like the opening scene of The Exorcist or something.
It does. I'm going to have to call either Ms. Cushingberry or the tech people to say, how did I mess it up again?
I can fix that for you.
Oh, really?
If you look at the very top of your laptop screen, there's a little slider above the camera. And what it does is it blocks out your camera so you can do a quick turn off your screen. If you slide that little slider over, it'll free up your camera.
Where is the slider?
It's
Right.
So I see Mrs. Cushing, it says you are viewing Cushingberry Robin L screen, and it says view options.
no, it's at the very top of your laptop, right here above the camera. There's a little slider that you can slide over.
Okay. All right. That's not working for me. So that's okay. I'll am I doing it? Okay. I'm good.
All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
press on with you eerily glowing in the background.
William has joined you. He's online as well.
I see that. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order. Robin, can you post the agenda? Because I did not print it out here.
You see?
Thank you. And so we will start. Let's see, just so for full disclosure, the media has been properly notified. I'm joined by William Smith and Carlton Dallas, the other committee members. So we do have quorum, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you all please join me? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
of the
United States of America and to the republic
for
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion made.
Oh, I see your hand, Carlton. That's progress. There he is. Okay, the motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Smith, do you second that?
I'll second the agenda.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. We need a motion to approve the April 17th committee meeting minutes.
Motion made.
Any objections? All right, we're going to move by unanimous consent. Okay, so what's the order? Because I see Mr. Ison's here. Sorry.
I don't think
Mr. Smith, did you have a question?
well, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I was just I figured if no one objected, we could just keep moving.
All right.
Mr. Shohan, are we going to do the EAUP first or the disaster recovery plan? Because I know Mr. Ison's here for that.
We could do the disaster recovery first, and it'll be easier for Mr. Eisen.
Okay, so do I have to pass the gavel, Robin? Someone just moved to amend the agenda to change the order of the disaster recovery plan. Okay, I'll make that motion. Since Mr. Ison's here, is that okay? Is that okay with you guys? Can I get a second?
Actually, are you making a motion or are you asking?
Yeah, I'll just make the motion that we change the order so that Mr. Ison can, since he's available now.
Okay. Well, can we get a second on that?
Yeah, are you seconding that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, any objections? All right.
None here.
All right, so passes with unanimous consent. So go ahead, Mr. Shohan, and we'll start with the disaster recovery plan.
I'm sorry, this is
Okay.
executive session. Do I need to take it off?
No,
now?
it's not executive session.
Okay.
No, this is going to be the public version of the documents. Mr. Eisen, I loaded the PowerPoint presentation that you provided us, so it will, we can bring it up for you.
It's up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm in a Zoom meeting.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Eisen for the disaster recovery readiness review.
Sounds good.
Think you're muted.
We can't hear you, Mr. Eisen.
Have him muted.
Mr. Eisen, I think we can hear you now. Oh, no, now you're muted. There you go. Nope.
Is it about his volume or?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. For the commercial. Yes, this is the disaster recovery review. So if we could go to the next slide. I don't have control of this.
Yes, I'm gonna move it in a second for you, sir. I was just,
Okay, thank you.
there you go.
Since most of you don't know me, it's who's performing the evaluation, which is me. And I'll give you a little bit about my background and some of my experiences. What's driving the discussion, the readiness review and recommendations. That's the topics for this presentation. Next slide, please. I am a master business continuity practitioner. I've been in business continuity and IT for about 51 years. Attached below are some of my prior customers. Of note are the Phoenix School Board and also Beaufort County. I had done some work there many years ago. What's driving the discussion are regional disruptions, whether they are hurricanes, power outages, floods, as well as safeguarding student records and delivering education to students. That's the impetus for all of this. The objective of this study is to provide for employee safety and security in the event of an incident, to maintain the public image and reputation of the district and of the county, and to manage the technology department's response to incident communication and its status. Of primary importance is the need for communications, communicating up to executive leadership, and providing a checklist for the various teams who would be doing the recovery. Also, part of this is to minimize the critical decisions that are being made during a time of crisis. As such, it's not often that when a crisis hits, quite often people have problems figuring out who's in charge, what do I do next, and so forth. And so what this plan is promising to do is to minimize those decisions. Next, please. These are some terms to set the background. Disaster recovery usually involves hot sites, alternate sites, and mobile recovery centers. In the 1990s, this has changed with an emphasis on people, not just technology, and further expanding out into crisis management and incident management. And that's the genesis of this plan. Next, please. Also, if anybody has questions, please feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. These are some of the natural disasters that have happened in recent years. The tornadoes in Birmingham, flooding in Columbia, and Glenn County has been hacked, leading to a major problem for them. Next, please. The elements of this are a risk evaluation, communications, security, backups, process and governance, and findings and recommendations. With respect to Beaufort County and Beaufort in general, the insurance firms have evaluated the county's risk and the school and the district's risk as fairly high, stemming mostly from frequency of tornadoes and flooding. The nature of a disruptive incident can't be projected, but with increased populations in moving towards the coast and into Beaufort County, this projection is proposed to increase over the next 10 years. And it has increased over the last 10 years and will continue to increase. As such, this report is focused on the level of resilience for the district and what would happen if the district's headquarters campus was lost, whether it was due to a flood or some other natural disaster. The physical location for the district headquarters, and that is also where the data center is, or the primary data center is located about 4,000 feet from the nearest body of water, which is Battery Creek. This makes the campus area less prone to storm surge. However, it doesn't abate the flooding risk. The facility is constructed of cinder block, reinforced cinder block, which is very helpful in that it can withstand the gale force winds. These two aspects provide sufficient level of security for the data centers against a level 2 or lower hurricane. Higher than that, it just depends on where it hits and when it hits. The risk evaluation, to continue on, all the doors at the headquarters are locked from the inside, and there are proximity badges required for all staff. The main lobby desk is equipped with a panic button, which is very similar to any modern facility. Visitors are only permitted through the main doorway, and they must wear their they are required to have a photo taken and a background check, and they must wear their visitor badge throughout their entire visit. Again, this is much in keeping with what normally what would be expected in normal situations. The district is covered by cyber incident insurance, and there is a documented incident management, which is maintained by Facilities and Protective Services. With regard to the data center itself, there are 3 Liebert UPS units that stands for uninterrupted power supply, 1 HVAC unit, which provides air conditioning, and 1 backup. Power can be maintained by a generator with a 5-day fuel tank, and the generator is maintained by a third party, which also provides fuel. BCSD's, the district's request for staff members with district devices will enable them to work remotely as long as they have access to the network.
Mr. Eisen, can I interrupt for just a moment?
Sure.
Can you do me a favor? This information, we've actually reviewed the slides for the show, and I think this is fantastic, and the level of detail is phenomenal. But would you mind summarizing kind of what you're doing and what the recommendations are? Because I know that some of our group have some questions as well that we'd like to get to. Would that be reasonable?
Yeah. By and large, I found that.
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
Sure, Mr. Smith.
Actually, I was listening to what he was saying, Ms. Bora. I didn't have a problem with him going over his slide if he took the time to do it.
Did you have the opportunity to read the slides before the meeting? Because
No,
he's just reading the slides.
No, I didn't have time to read the slide before the meeting. I did.
Yeah, it's all there in the slides if you want to review it real quick. But what I want to hear from him, and what I think the value of having Mr. Eisen here for, is for him to make his recommendations. And you can look through the 20-some pages of slides that have exactly what he's saying, and then give us some time to ask some questions. And I know you're going to have some questions, Mr. Smith. So if you don't mind, I'd rather him just kind of summarize and give the recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. By and large, the district data center is in good shape. It's protected. It is, if we could skip to the recommendations, which is probably on the last page.
It's like 24, I think.
Yeah.
24.
Okay. Thank you. By and large, the district is in good shape as far as the data center is concerned. Being on the South Carolina coast, it is there is a natural prevalence for hurricanes, for flooding, for various natural incidents, but the district has undertaken precautions as well as a secondary data center to maintain its readiness. The recommendations would be twofold. One is that each of the business units, whether they are the educational units or finance or any of the various components that are represented today, that they develop their own plans for how would they cope if they were forced to work remotely or go somewhere else, rather than work at the headquarters. And the second one would be to execute a tabletop for the disaster recovery, which would involve the IT group, as well as making sure that all of the different components, whether it's the education units or the financial or business units, to participate.
And just as a point of clarification, when you say executing tabletop DR exercises, you're saying basically to run simulations.
Right, yeah. I mean, just a simulation.
Which I think is great. So those are your two recommendations then coming out of your report that you did in your evaluation?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, I appreciate you going through all that, and I found the slide should be very informative. At this point, I would like to open it up to my committee members to see if they have any questions. Mr. Smith, did you have a question? Mr. Dallas, any questions for anybody? I have a couple. Yes, Mr. Dallas.
You're muted, Carl.
You're in the dark, Carlton. There you go.
That's a normal status for me, in the dark, so.
Well, it's better than spooky.
Yeah, it is. All right, so Mr. Eisen, thank you for the detail, and I certainly understand the two recommendations. A couple of questions. Do we have crisis management positions that are filled by people who know their role, leading up to a disaster recovery tabletop exercise?
Is that question directed to me?
Yes, or you or Mr. Chowan?
I can take that. We do, ever since the district has built out the plan for what would happen at any of our outlying schools in the case of some type of emergency. So the district does have a plan in place with the leaders in every department set up in the case of some type of incident or disaster to take place. So yes, to answer that question, the district does have staff recommended for each department throughout the district in case of an emergency.
Okay, so that's good. That's good to hear. One of the things is, are the people who are assigned those roles, do they meet to just sort of understand who's doing what? So should an incident occur that there's some familiarity, they know who to call? Do they have lists of names?
Yes, sir. For the event of a general disaster, we do have a plan in place. What Mr. Eisen did was to take that and basically customize it for just the IT side. So going forward with the IT side, we'll be using most of the plan that's already put in place by the district as a whole, but we'll be basically make it a little bit more finite to only relate to the IT side and how the different business units can maintain in the event of a network loss, an entire building being destroyed, and how the district's continuity as a business entity would keep going in those types of events.
Okay, that's
so
good.
We do have some work to do on the internal side for the IT part of it, and we will be happy to get working on that going forward.
Good. Thank you, sir. The second question that I'd like to just ask is, in terms of disaster recovery, now it's been 13 years since I retired, and a lot has changed digitally since then. Are files still kept off premise as well, just in case? I know they probably are in the cloud now, but are they also kept in a repository so that it's far away from where the disaster might actually occur?
Absolutely. The basic rule of thumb is the 1, 2, 3 rule. You want 3 copies of your data. You want 2 within the district and 1 outside of the district. We take that a little bit further. We have 3 separate copies on site, and then we have our 4th repository up in the cloud.
Sounds good, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dyson.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, do you have a question? I'll go ahead and ask mine. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just in terms
Hey, Mr. Smith, you're doing the robot voice. Can you get closer to a window?
Back to kind of go to
There you go.
just ask.
Sorry, you have to repeat it because it was doing that kind of electronic thing again.
Okay. Well, now I was gonna say, in terms of asking the question, the same question I was just asked. I would ask Mr. Chauhan, do you think that it would help if we had another neutral spot in the district, in terms of to hold that actual spot of a technology center?
We do currently have a secondary data center within the district. It is not an 100% capable data center right now. It's an 80% capable data center, meaning that we don't have an internet connection that's different from our standard internet connection. And we are currently working to achieve that right now. The biggest problem we have is because of the 600 miles of coastline inside of Beaufort County. Unfortunately, our main telecommunications provider is Hargray, who backhauls all the data for our cellular companies, our Verizons, our T-Mobiles, our Sprints, and they also backhaul for a lot of our third-party services. So we are trying to find a different aggregate internet provider to alleviate some of the issues we've had when we've had fiber cuts within the district.
And in terms of that, my question is, could we possibly, if we created a school or if we created a place in the middle, would that place be able to do exactly what you asked me? Is my question.
I guess it could. We currently have the secondary site that's already built out, and we invested a lot of money in the environmentals of that room. But anything is possible.
Well, and I asked that because this may be a little off base, but as well as you're also asking for a storehouse, and I'm trying to figure out a way how to get more bang for our buck. So that's where I'm leading to. In terms of this, could we do 2 things in one?
That possibility is always there.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just would like to say to Mr. Eisen, thank you very much. It is my understanding that you are an outside sort of consultant that audits the district's disaster recovery plan. Would that be an accurate sort of assessment?
Yes.
And essentially the audit they got, I've been impressed with the thoroughness of the district's disaster recovery plan. It sounds like they got great reviews, with the exception of that one thing they could improve on would be the department specific disaster recovery, which I think is an excellent idea because the district is so complex. And then to do a little bit of a simulation of a disaster. So that's
correct,
really
yes.
Easy to check off the list. Doesn't sound like we have any gaping problems. And we are a very challenging district to do disaster because of the hurricanes. My only question really was, and this is to Mr. Chauhan, and it sort of falls along with Mr. Smith's question. When we go to the referendum and we're going to build, hopefully, a technology warehouse, do we have integration with facilities where we're building it to be as flood proof as possible? Because I
Yes,
do think, okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that was a
take that into
consideration.
Yes.
Okay, I figured it was, but I thought I'd put it out there since there's such an emphasis on the referendum. So, okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. Eisen, for that information. And I appreciate the slideshow in advance because it did allow us the opportunity to sort of look at everything prior to and having those questions ready to go.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
So then I'll just go over his, the findings of that review of our technology disaster plans at the next, no, it won't be tomorrow, it'll be in 3 weeks or the next board meeting. But it sounds like the district is in good shape coming into hurricane season. Do you want to do now the AUP, Mr. Shohan?
Yes.
Perfect.
So basically, every year around this time, we like to go through and just update the AUP with anything we might think that we need to add for the upcoming school year, because once this is finalized, we have to take it and get it translated to Spanish and get everything up on our website and get it into our enrollment and registration system, so the parents will be able to fill it out as they start enrolling this summer.
Okay. I had a quick question, Robin. The one you're showing me, is that what's the date on that? Because I pulled up the AUP, our current OS 39, off of the website, off of our district policy manual.
This is the one that was added to.
Yeah, this is the one we've been working on, and that's why I left the changes we made in red, to kind of see the differences between what's currently on the website and what will be going to the website here very shortly, as soon as we can get it translated.
Okay. Because I may have been looking at the wrong version. Let me see, because I was looking on Saturday and I don't think it was in here on Saturday. I pulled up the one off the website. So
You might have seen the mobile agreement form on the more of the student side.
This is one I put in there on Saturday.
yeah, I think I missed it.
Yeah.
I don't know how different it is, or okay, so from what I have under purposes, we've added C from the current one. Obviously, it's all red. And so that is a non-discrimination clause, essentially.
Yes, that was from our legal department to make sure that we're fully aligned with all state and federal laws.
Okay. So it looks like that was the big change. And then down here, we've got district email. We added A. No, we changed A.
You go down to J, after you go down to guiding principles under 2, the
Yeah.
next change is in J. They took out a line.
So under section 5, district email, A is going to remain the first part, email by and through the district email account as a business communications tool. And then we're adding another A, or just a continuation of A. Students are provided a Google. I think that's just a continuation of A, right?
Yes, and we're making that distinction because we've never allowed parents to access the student Gmail side. The only people that can access that is staff members and the students. Now the
Yep.
parents can go in on the student's account and look over their shoulder at the kids' emails. But since it's a closed system, we've never added it and never saw the reason to add it to our AUP. But since we did have some parent comments on that this year, we wanted to make sure that we did have it updated so we were in line.
Can you tell me where you are?
Yeah.
Section 5 on this, because I just didn't have the red line copy when I looked at it before the meeting. Section 5, district email. They expanded the first section A to include that that students' Gmail accounts were just basically an internal BCSD communication tool. So that they can't email out, and I guess we can't email to them, more or less. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes,
do
that
parents-
we don't. Okay, sorry.
No, I apologize. Will parents be able to get the email address, password, or is that protected to the students?
We usually ask that the students allow the parents to log in. Most of the time, the parents do know their kids' passwords. They are the parental guardians of our students, so them knowing that password is kind of part of being a parent.
That was my thoughts. And then.
And we need all the help we can get with keeping everyone in line.
Well, and I can't imagine. I mean, it's the school internal system where a kid would refuse to give a email if a parent requested it because the student was not providing. I don't know what we do in that situation, but.
Usually we let the principals handle that at a school level, and through a meeting, the parents would come in and the device would be opened up in front of the parent to allow them to view it. If that student was being a little ornery in that case.
Right.
Never happened.
Okay.
All right. All right, we made some changes.
Well, my question would be, in terms of that, I do understand that, but in terms of to the school level, at what point would the district be hello?
Yeah, you've got that electronics thing going.
Okay, I said if that took place, at what notion would the district be notified that this took place in the school?
You mean the parents coming in and looking at the kid's computer?
Right. Because
Is
at
that
some,
by parental request or?
right, right. If that place, because at some degree, the district still needs to be noted that took place due to legal issues that could come from that.
Generally speaking, if the parent had a concern, they would bring it at the school level first, and then the school principal or APs would have that meeting with the parents. If it deemed to go a step further, the school would get in contact with me. And then a lot of times I go to these meetings if the parents have concerns about what's going on their child's device.
And you have the ability to shut it down too.
Absolutely, absolutely, remotely or.
Yes. Thank you. So, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was aware. The questions I had didn't really relate to the changes that were made, so I'm okay, but I'd like to open up questions regarding the AUP to the committee. This is something as a parent I'm pretty familiar with, or the process at least.
Judging by just reviewing what I've seen, the changes in red, I don't have a problem with what I've heard so far.
I agree. I don't have a problem with it. My question is this, Mr. Shohan. I think there's some language in here in the guiding principles, and I was trying to see if it had been changed. There's a couple things. If you look at section C, the final sentence, all such information shall be the property of BCSD and no user shall have any expectation of privacy regarding such materials. I think that students do have legally through FERPA and through some other things, some expectation of privacy. I don't think that we can say no user shall have any expectation of privacy. And we go down, if you go down to section E, BCSD reserves the right to access, remove files, documents, devices, materials, or otherwise from the BCSD network at any time and for any reason with or without notice to any user. I'm not certain that's FERPA compliant either. Patients do, there are some cases that if there's going to be some of this done, you know, if we're going to remove or access or otherwise copy information to a third-party vendor, that there has to be some notification or some consent. And I'm not sure, it's a broad statement, but I'm not sure that we're compliant with that. And we can't just remove any files because FERPA does protect some files and students do have a right to review those things. So I feel like those two things, and I looked at other districts, AUPs, to see if they were equally sort of aggressive about that, you know, anytime, any reason, no notice given. And I think we're sort of an outlier on that one from the ones that I looked at. And I'm concerned that we may be overdoing it on that. So that's one thing I think maybe Wendy should take a look at. I think it would be in this, I just went to, you know, hear Ellen Weaver speaking about student rights and parent rights. I think it would behoove the district to maybe look at if we need it to be that aggressive, because data is it is going to become more important. So it's not really a question so much as a comment for thought. And then the second thing is, throughout this document, we make reference that people can lose their privileges, right? And my concern with that is, can we do that? Like, we're putting all of our educational curriculum online. How could we possibly tell a student that they have lost their privilege if that's their educational materials? And I don't think that's spelled out. It doesn't make sense to me that we would have that as a disciplinary issue.
Ingrid, Chloe's hands up.
Oh, good. I didn't see Chloe on the list. Chloe, do you have
Hi.
a question as well?
She's here and
Oh, perfect. Well, Mr. Shohan, can you respond to those two ideas just a little bit and tell me what you think about that, if I'm out of line, or if that, something you think that the district could look at? We're not really in charge of ARs, but I do have some concerns about privacy.
Well, as it relates to section E, mainly when we say that, we are talking about anything that would be posted, which was considered bullying, offensive, pornographic. You are right that no matter what happens, the document could not be deleted, because you're right, we would be in violation of our FOIA. We can't delete it from their system, but we could remove access for other employees and the right to see that content and remove that content from that user's purview.
Yeah, I
Can
would ask
I-
Mindy if that wouldn't be something to kind of wordsmith a little differently, because that comes across to me as a parent a little jarring.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr.
wait.
Chowan, I'm sorry, Ms. Gordon, you were before me. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
He told you to go ahead.
Oh, no, Mr. Dallas, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so has legal reviewed these sections that are in question by the chair?
Yes, we received them back from legal is when I decided to present them to the committee.
In this iteration that we're reviewing now, so they've seen
Yes.
it and they're okay with it. Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Dallas. I'm speaking as a former administrator who really appreciates the language in putting some kind of restrictions on the usage. First of all, these are Beaufort County School District's devices. They're not their personal devices. The other thing is, I have witnessed and seen young girls, young guys who take pictures of their private areas for that boyfriend who's the only one supposed to see it. And then he passes it around throughout the school and everyone else sees her parts. So now we've got that issue and the police have to come in, they take the devices, they clean it because these are minors. So when you're looking at who's using these particular devices, we're talking about kids and they do some pretty silly stuff. They bully, they talk about suicide, they talk about killing someone, they talk about their body parts, your body parts. They misuse the material for the academic part, which is why we have to have this in place where we can get that device and do what we need to do to protect that child or children that they are going after. They even put hit lists on the school devices of children that they're going to go after. So I think when you look at what is written for, it's not to strip kids of their rights and their privileges, but to let them know this is a privilege to have this particular device provided to you. And I tell you, I truly appreciate it because I've seen too many kids crying, parents coming in, kids not coming to school because of mean things that our children use this device for. We even have some kids who are younger and their older siblings will take that device and they will go on sites And then, we're getting all these red flags.
We've had parents do that.
We've had parents. So believe me, there is a need, and if you ever see it, you will appreciate that being in there, because the child wants it for materials to do their homework and studies, but sometimes other people have other ideas for them. But we have to protect everyone. So that's just my spill. I don't think the language is too harsh. I actually think is the intent of what's in there is to protect the child that's being taken advantage of. And we do suspend their use of it until they can, find out, and we return it if we find out it wasn't that child who did it. Within a day or so, it doesn't take that long. So very few are taken forever or for the end of the school year. I haven't seen that, maybe 2, 3. But to make sure that they're safe, we need to have that right to suspend what they're doing on these devices. That's just my spirit.
No, and I can appreciate that. And I think that's an excellent point. And having kids in high school right now, I can tell you that is always a ever-present concern. And I have certainly seen.
Middle and elementary as well.
Oh, for sure.
And I think another avenue we were trying to get at with E is because some of our users try to use third-party software, applications, websites that gets to content that's either copyright protected or some kind of digital protection that would put the district at the chance of possible lawsuit by running unlicensed software.
So the only thing I'm going to say, in my opinion, and Wendy can look at this again, I think that C and E are overly broad. I understand for the purposes of what Ms. Gordon is talking about, absolutely. But you got to remember too, we cannot sell data to third-party vendors, obviously, for marketing purposes. And we do have a lot of third-party vendors in our students' educational networks and hardware and whatnot. We also have to consider the fact that we have medical information now, special needs information, behavior plans, IEPs, mental health evaluations, drug testing results. Those things are now part of what's going on our networks and hardware. So that's why I would like to say, I think it's not even a question of overly harsh. I think it's a question of violation of FERPA. If we don't somehow delineate what students can expect privacy for and what they cannot. And we tell people all the time in our materials that we are HIPAA compliant, which I have said on many occasions, school districts are not HIPAA compliant because FERPA takes precedence over HIPAA. But we give that to reassure people, when they see the nurse or they want to access mental health care or they have a medical condition they're being treated for by a school nurse. We say, don't worry about it. It's HIPAA compliant. Think about these surveys with sensitive information about family circumstances that are going out. I think that is my concern when we say that no user shall have any expectation of privacy regarding such materials, and we don't specify what materials we're using. And then we turn around and tell our parents, go ahead and sign these forms. We're HIPAA compliant. So those two things are at odds for me. So I agree wholeheartedly with Miss Gordon in terms of if kids are doing, and look, my kid had something get picked up on a filter and it was a joke between two friends, and the school social worker had me on the phone within 5 minutes of that, and it all got cleared up. So I think we do a great job of content filtering. But we have to recognize that this is what I'm talking about. We're talking about highly sensitive health information that now exists on our systems. And I do think in those cases, in fact, I know for a fact that FERPA requires that that they do have an expectation of privacy. So that is my concern. And like I said, I looked at other ones that say similar things, but specify when we're talking about, hate speech, or we're talking about obscene content, or we're talking about bullying. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have a separate section for bullying under usage. Or maybe I was thinking of somebody else's. But
I'm sorry.
anyways.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't, notwithstanding Chair Boatwright's insights, otherwise, I don't have a problem with E. I think we have to have the ability to enforce behaviors. And so I think maybe one way to get at that is to General Counsel Cartledge has already reviewed it, but ask her to review it in light of avoiding any breaches of FERPA, as Chair Boatwright is alluding to. And if she can word it so that the school district still retains all the abilities, but that particular bit of information is noted as possibly being off limits. And I think that will be sort of a Solomonic outcome.
Solomonic. I like it. Yeah, I just think we need to refine the wording on that. But, you know, if Wendy signed off on it and the board wants to leave it in, I just don't see how we can tell parents that we're complying with HIPAA and then say that in the same, in our AUP. Okay. Those were my questions. My only other question, Mr. Shohan, was it says that it could not be used for religious purposes, but I know we have churches that are using, I'm assuming they use our network when they're renting out. Didn't we say Battery Creek is renting out churches, and we've talked about funerals and that sort of thing?
They do not use our school network or private network because it is a closed network.
Right.
And we don't want other people on there.
So they use what, guest?
They can use guest, or most of them have MiFis that they bring into that area to do their own internet because they didn't like our guest. Because it is a little, we do restrict a lot of areas due to our obligations to CIPA compliancy.
Those were all my questions. Anyone else have any questions before we move on to district hardware purchases?
None here, ma'am.
Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Shohan, you want to move on to hardware?
Okay, for the upcoming year, our biggest purchase is going to be halfway through next school year. This is our buy year when it comes to buying student devices. So we'll be making a purchase in November for high school devices, and that will be putting those devices in our hands probably in late April, early May to start prepping them for the 24-25 school year. Other than that, we are looking at starting an upgrade on our Wi-Fi system, our wireless APs. We have a subset that we will start swapping out. We generally do our wireless in a two-part series. We usually do the first part, which takes about 1.5 years. When that's completed, that's about the time to start rolling in the next part. So it is a continuous, nonstop process of always keeping our stuff, trying to keep it within that 5-year mark where we get all the goodie out of it. But we don't put the district in a bind where we're using old equipment that's not covered by hardware warranties from the manufacturer. So if we do have a big problem, we get their engineering support on it.
And is this, who's up for the refresh cycle now? Because I know we, with Esther, we bought K through 2nd grade iPads, right? Are we on a 5-year refresh cycle?
4-year with student devices. Unfortunately, they're pretty rough on the devices.
And we usually do that by, it's like K through 2, and then like 3rd through 5th, and then middle school, and then high school. Like, is it, we kind of do all the high schools in one refresh? Is that how we're doing it?
Yes, yes. We only split up elementary because of the amount of students. We have to break that into 2-year cycle just for the E-rate. I mean, sorry, not E-rate, but the 8% spending. It would be too big of an ask to do it all in 1 year.
And can you remind me, so the K through 2nd grade have iPads, right?
K through 1st grade have iPads.
And then 2nd through 5th is Chrome? Sorry.
Yeah. Nope, they get Windows laptops.
And then middle school?
Windows laptops.
And high school?
Windows laptops.
I thought I saw Chromebooks on there somewhere.
No Chromebooks in this district so far. We do have some Android tablets that we use in some of the K classes for programming. The kids do a lot of Android programming on it, and it plays into their robotics work when they're doing the VEX robotics.
Okay. And we're sticking with the HPs.
As of right now, it's kind of a toss-up when you look at HP, Dell, Toshiba. Where we get the added benefit from HP is our reseller Applied Data provides 2 technicians inside of our district that do all of our repairs. So we don't have to make phone calls out to, say, a Dell Tech, and then the Dell Tech comes to the district and they do the repairs right then. So because of the partnership, we were provided 2 on-site repair technicians that really help with the fixing of all of our student breakages.
So one of my questions, I'm sort of speaking up here. Does anyone else have any questions?
None here.
Mr. Smith doesn't seem to be online. Ms. Gordon, do you have a question?
Not at this time.
Okay, so my other question is, just because I do this stuff for healthcare so much in the last 4 years, if you look at whoever's coming up on the next refresh cycle, everything's going to cloud-based, obviously. So as far as how much, laptop you need, in terms of because we do Office and Google apps, but they're all in the cloud, right? So why wouldn't we do like a Chromebook?
Right now, because we're doing a lot of with Adobe, with some of the Photoshop apps, and we're getting rid of labs in schools, we have to have a way to do certain programs that are a little bit more application intensive and hardware intensive, that are a little bit more than what a Chromebook provides.
Can you guess my follow-up to that?
Go ahead with it.
Why are we getting rid of labs? What's happening there?
That's been a push from our school principals and even from our board to get rid of labs over the years. Mainly on the school side, they want it because they need more spaces, or most of our buildings are overcrowded. And some of these labs were not being utilized for the whole daily cycle. So they would rather have a class in there during the day.
And you and I have talked about this before. Don't you think it's reasonable that some of these principals are not tech people, and they're like, I don't need a computer lab. Well, yeah, you kind of do, because, the stuff that's coming down the pike, we're going to need to have these computers. And shouldn't that be a discussion at a district level as well? It just surprises me that we sort of let principals decide that they do or don't need computer labs, and we get rid of all this equipment. And then, as you and I know, find out, well, we could have used that equipment now. I'm just saying. We're going to have more computer stuff, not less, going forward.
The one standard we've been able to maintain is at least 1 computer lab in every school. And we do that during our testing windows. In the event the kid didn't bring their laptop or something like that happens, we have a mobile cart full of devices, and then we utilize that in one classroom, and we utilize the lab as a second space that we can use as an overflow to help with the students to make sure testing's done in a timely manner.
Because what doesn't make sense to me a little bit, I'm not a huge fan, and I know a lot of parents aren't, of the HPs, right? Because they're expensive to replace. I mean, they're $700, which is still a fair amount of money for what you can get nowadays. A Google Chromebook's like $200, $250, right? So they're at least twice the price of a Google Chromebook. And, if they get broken, the parents are on the hook for that. So what I'm saying is, if the reason that we're going to HPs over like a Chromebook or something similar is because principals are getting rid of computer labs, and we might need to occasionally do, because I can tell you, having a kid who's a computer kid, we're not doing a ton with Adobe on a regular basis in the schools. That's a cost decision. I just feel like, man, that the principals may not understand all the ramifications of what they're getting rid of. You know what I mean? And there should be, and I know that there is I don't know who, I know who on the board thought we should get rid of computer labs. I do, but I don't know if that represents the board as a whole. I don't think we've ever taken a vote on that, right?
I don't think so.
No, we have not.
So, I would look for your recommendation if you like HP and you think that they're doing a good job. I know some parents are upset, and that, if you're, it's you get one replacement, and my son's screen is cracked. And he doesn't want to get it fixed because he's afraid if he gets it fixed and it cracks again, he'll have to pay for it. But I think it's like $680 with plus tax to replace one of these things. And so if you're on, on a budget, which a lot of our families are, I mean, both the high schools in Hilton Head are Title I, where are they going to come up with that?
They do get the one free repair a year.
Right.
And then we do have some special programs run through our student services department.
Yeah.
We collect some money that's donated from some companies and like that go into a fund to help pay for some of our most needy families that might be in a situation like that.
I mean, I defer to you on this. This is definitely operational and it's not my business, but I have concerns about principals getting rid of computer labs without being made aware, sort of informed consent. Going forward, it just seems odd to me because we buy them from the principals didn't ask to have them bought. We installed them at the district level, and then they're kind of being allowed to take them out. What I'd like to know is two things at the next meeting. If it's hard to get, let me know. But I'd like to know either last year or this year, depending on how fast you get the information, how many people had to pay for replacements on that. And I know middle school is like that's the danger zone for all these computers. But I'd kind of like to see total for the district broken down by school, and how many people had to use that special fund. Because I'd like to have a sense of what kind of an economic burden it is on parents, because I have definitely had parents raise that concern with me. And then I would also like to know what schools have gotten rid of their computer labs over the last 5 years. Do you have that information?
I can more than likely get it for you.
You
Yeah,
gotta write a report on something. Sorry, was that you, Mr. Dallas?
yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I support those two data points. And in addition to the first one of how many repairs have actually been done, I think Madam Chair said also how many of those repairs would have been covered so that the family didn't suffer the burden. So I think that'll be a good data point refinement. And I'm really interested in how many computer labs have been consolidated. To me, that sounds like a strategic issue rather than a decentralized one. So I think that'll be very valuable, and that may be a future topic for the technology committee to take a look at. I understand programmatic constraints as opposed to building constraints, but I mean, a lot of times kids learn from just being able to go through and try something and see what happens. So I support what Madam Chair was requesting.
Thank you. Yeah, and then that's something I do, for my organization. And my personal thing is there are applications that are best served on a tablet or a Chromebook type environment, and applications that you need a desktop for. It'd be nice to have. So anyways, if we can have that at a future meeting, I think that would be really helpful to me. And then I feel like this pretty well covers OE 17.2, which is provide a safe and secure technology infrastructure environment for students and staff that prioritizes data privacy and protects against external threats. I think we really covered that with this meeting. And we've also really covered the new and diverse learning techniques and styles with the last meeting. So we're making, great progress in terms of getting the OE all tied up. I know it's said in here, and I was trying to find where I highlighted it, that you guys keep a list of software. Yeah, here it is. On the AUP, item 4, software hardware management. Item B, BCSD shall maintain a list of application software and programs for use on the BCSD computers. And I know we've talked about this and talked about like what reports, come off of that data. Can we get that at the next meeting, do you think?
I will work on that for the next meeting.
Okay.
What is it, the list of the
Software and the reports generated from that software and how the departments use it.
Yeah, and I think we can tie that into the current data to the appropriate users aspect of the OE. The other thing is, I know we're doing that communication survey, right? Because that we're going around. I don't know when that's going to be done, but I think that having that come through technology would be good, because we do have that OE, which is provide a means for interactive communication, engagement, electronic access to information about school district programs and academic progress. So I don't know when. We can talk to Candace and see when that's going to be done. And then really the only piece I see, we'll have to have the district strategic technology plan when you get that, which I know you're working on, even though the state hasn't updated it. And then we'll have the professional development aspect. So
Our goal
that's-
is to hopefully get it ready for the new school year.
if we can, yeah. And I think we're actually, I think we're in good shape. If we can do a PD development meeting and then an update on, and then a separate meeting would be the strategic technology plan, right? And then the follow-ups that we just mentioned, I think we'll be in good shape. So I think we could do that over the summer,
Okay.
unless you're swamped, which I understand.
I will be, but we can get through it.
Well, the PD will be interesting. I know you guys are talking about some AI stuff, like with the, we can do that in August or September with the Summer Institute.
Yeah, we're going to have a couple of good AI sessions at Summer Institute.
Yeah, and I think there'll be some other
Great speaker
technology.
coming in.
I'm interested to see, they mentioned this letters that they're developing for the science of reading. And that may be something too that comes down with PDs with technology. So anyway, if we can keep working on that, I think we can get it done by, August or September and have the OE finished.
Madam Chair, if we're finished with this topic, before going into executive session, it looks like, can I just make a comment?
Sure.
I just want to thank fellow board member Ms. Gordon for providing specific experiences of what teachers encounter in the classroom and student behavior. So I've not spent virtually any time in the classrooms other than volunteering and presenting. So appreciate that breath of fresh air. So thank you, Ms. Gordon.
You're welcome.
I agree. It's very nice to have the inside perspective for sure. And fairly recently too.
Can I make one comment about executive session? Since we don't have a good means yet to display sensitive documents, I know we're working on that with the new module in board docs. But if we could, would y'all be willing to come to the district office to review our disaster recovery plan?
Yeah, I would.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, great. I would just feel more comfortable because it does basically outline all the steps we take in different scenarios. And it would be a very detrimental for that document to make its way out to the public.
And to be honest with you, Mr. Shohan, I am not certain the board needs that specificity. It
Okay.
makes me nervous to know that. I don't know how other board members feel. But that is something that there are certain things with executive session that if it gets out, you're like, that's unfortunate. There are certain things that if it gets out could be catastrophic. And I mean, what I would like to know from Mr. Dallas or Ms. Gordon, and we can maybe talk to the full board about it. I don't feel like I need that level of specificity. I think that's operational.
Can you repeat what the subject was? I didn't hear what.
Yeah, so we were going to go into executive session. We kind of got the open session version, which to me is sort of the strategic policy version of the external threats and the cybersecurity. Then there is actually a more specific document that we would do in executive session, because if it were to get out, it would allow hackers and other ne'er-do-wells more access to our network. So that was going to go into executive session. Personally, I just want to know how you guys felt. I personally don't think we need that level of operation.
I am very concerned about our protective efforts becoming public knowledge, because you give away the advantage you get by having taken steps that the others are not aware of.
Right. So to me,
so whatever that looks like to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, to me, when I look at like OEs, we are saying, here's what we expect you to accomplish. And we've got an outside company auditing us and making recommendations. The operational, how you actually provide that isn't really.
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah. So Ms. Gordon, do you have a preference?
I agree with you and Mr. Dallas, Ms. Chairman, having had a secret security clearance, it troubled me that that was even up there. But I do appreciate what you're saying, and yes, I agree. I don't need to know any more than I know, but I certainly don't need it broadcast so that others can see. What good is it to have a security? I knows it.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that
Mr. Smith's hands up.
I got it. Yeah. Mr. Smith?
Well, my question is just in terms of bringing it to the to executive sessions, are we within legal within the legal laws of FOIA? Is just that's just my that's when in doubt. I figure always result in that. Is it something that FOIA is allowed in executive session? Is the question.
And I'll go ahead and answer that. No, this is not FOIAble because this is very much covered under the security, because this would actually could cause catastrophic failure of our networks if it got into the wrong hands. So to me, it's sort of like I said, I personally, and what I'll do is in my report, I will mention the fact that, this document is there. I'll share the board's concerns. And Mr. Smith, if you have something you want to share at that time as well, and we can see if there is any a majority interest in the board in actually seeing the specifics, because I would argue pretty strongly that really I don't want to know. Just if something goes down, I want to have what's the word? I want to have ignorance of what the issue is, because that is, I know for a fact that is some pretty high level security stuff. Short of knowing where our officers' PIN codes are to get into the buildings, that's kind of right up for me. So I think what I'd like to do then is to go ahead and adjourn this meeting without executive session because of operational, just logistics at this point, because we can't get the documents yet. And then I will mention, we're not going to have this report till the next board meeting, but I will bring up our concerns and we can have a little bit of a board discussion to see if there's an appetite for having this information in executive session.
Could you repeat that again? To have what again now?
What the information that will be in executive session is exactly what happens to prevent cybersecurity attacks and external threats to the network. So it would be, in my opinion, and I'll bring this up with the board, it would be the equivalent of knowing exactly how the officers would respond to an active shooting, where they would be, what communication they would be having, what the PIN codes would be. And that's just not information I think that ever needs to get outside of the very few people that I think it's a need to know only basis. And so I guess what I'm asking is, and what I'll ask the board is, if the board feels like this is something we need to know, and we can kind of have that discussion.
Well, just for me, I think it also becomes a question of in terms of us being stewards of information, and also of us understanding exactly and knowing that we have what we said that we have. I think that there are several questions that come in mind, and just listening to you say what you say. I think that in terms of that information, if I'll just say, to not understand some of it, I think could possibly be a slippery slope for the board, and I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think that's the kind of discussion we can have with the full board and just kind of go from there. And if it's the full board's will that they indeed think they need to do that, then we'll set up executive session accordingly. And if it's not the majority opinion that we do that, then we'll let it go.
One more announcement from the technology side. We are undergoing a full pen test right now, which is a penetration test of our network. We do a yearly penetration test. We test for intruders getting into our network from the complete outside. And then we do a east-west attack where somebody's already inside of our network. How far can they go left and right to go spread through our network? So that audit is being done right now, and hopefully we should have the results back by our next meeting.
Perfect. And that's the kind of thing, pass or fail, I think the board could know. And also the penetration test is done by a third party, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Outside individuals. And usually we use a different company every 2 years, just so kind of get a discount, double check to make sure they're doing a great job. And we're doing a great job.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. So, okay. So we
Right.
can't really do the executive session right now because we don't have electronic document yet. And I will have this discussion and Mr. Smith will ask those questions as well when we have the full board report. Sound good, Mr. Smith?
Yes, it does. No problem. That's fine.
Perfect. All right, so unless there's anything else, future topics we kind of went over, does anyone else have anything they want to add?
Our next meeting for
On the
the,
third Monday at 3:00. So what is that?
would be June 19th at 3:00.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Awesome. Mr. Shohan, are you here June 19th?
I'm sorry, I was just reminded, the district is closed because that's Juneteenth. That's what I
Oh,
was
okay.
remind you, we're not gonna be working on the 19th.
Okay,
Then, I need to check the calendar. We might be able to meet on the 20th.
yeah, so just check the calendar and throw out a couple dates and send them to the committee and we'll see who's available. June's tricky, I mean, the summer gets tricky, so we'll just see if we can figure it out. Like I said, I only anticipate us needing 2, maybe 3 more meetings before we can bring the full OE to the board. So we just got to get them in sometime, in the next couple of months. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Sure does.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Shohan. I appreciated all the information you provided, and I definitely enjoyed hearing the perspectives from the other board members. So I learned a lot at these meetings. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All
Second.
right. See y'all tomorrow.
Have a good one. At
Bye, Robin.
the Hilton Head Library.
Yep, I'll be